So what's the first question, sir?
Okay, so one of my students, Mimi, sent me a list of questions that she would love for us to answer. And number one is, when did you start juggling and what sparked your interest in it?
I started this morning at about 10:30.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean, okay, lifetime.
Oh, we did like 20 minutes already.
Yeah. I began juggling when I was a teenager with no athletic ability on a baseball team. So I was probably, when I picked up 3 baseballs, I didn't know I was juggling. I was probably 15 years old. That's too late, by the way, to be really world class by today's standards. If you don't start juggling when you're like 6, actually, this current generation, if you're not watching YouTube videos while you're a spermatozoa, it's too late for you. But it's still fun.
You're talking if you're going to be competitive in like
The World Juggling
14
Federation.
balls.
Yeah. Or even if you're going to fluently run 7 clubs with some tricks, 7 balls behind the back. If you didn't start by the time you were 10 or 11, you're not getting there. You're going to enjoy juggling and you'll make more friends with it when you're not so hardcore. Just relax. I started juggling in my mid-teens and I got my first set of clubs, which are poorly balanced, but they did teach me clubs when I was 16, and I didn't think juggling was a real thing, but I already had a set of juggling clubs and I used tennis balls. When I read an article in Smithsonian Magazine, and to figure out when it was, just find some Smithsonian Magazine database and find an article that was called something like Juggling Seriously or Seriously Juggling. It had really glossy pictures of Anthony Gatto, whose real name is Comarota, Albert Lucas skating on the ice juggling with torches. His real name is Albert Moreira, or Moreira. And it had the Karamazov, flying Karamazov jugglers, and another guy with juggling with handcuffs on.
What year was this?
The year
back
would be
in
impossible because I'm not my age. So I don't know. I think if you want to find that article and find out what inspired me to juggle more than just screwing around when I was a kid, the first article was that Smithsonian Magazine juggling article, and I'm talking a paper printed magazine my parents used to get. I happened to see it. And it would have probably been in the 80s, that article. I don't know how old the magazine was sitting around their house because they kept every magazine. When I opened to it, it went, oh, hallelujah. But there was a TV show called The Juggler of Notre Dame. And I think the juggler in the video was called Barnaby, but he was at least Barnaby on screen. I'm not sure if he was the juggler that was working in the real life called Barnaby, and he did 4 rings, and I couldn't believe you could do more than 3 things. 4 rings, how do you do it? I didn't figure it out. The first set of rings that I ordered, way off topic, slightly off topic.
It's all good.
I was in South Carolina, which is not a juggling hub. It's like, if you were to take a heat map, and it was red in all the areas, and there were a lot of jugglers, and it was like pink or purpley in all the areas where there was like 1 or 2 jugglers, South Carolina would be like blue. Because there's just, when I'm passing through there, I'm blip and I'm gone. I mean, yes, the Cariotis brothers are ostensibly from South Carolina, but that's just where their alien spaceship landed. So when I was there, there was a place where they had like clown stuff and magic stuff, and they had juggling rings there. So my mom went for my Christmas and ordered me some juggling rings. And then we were going to go pick them up. And Mom said, I'll get them and bring them to you after school. And she came home. They were going to be Dubai juggling rings, 3 white, 3 red. And they were like Air Flight. And I read the catalog that I got from Juggling. Oh, I was so excited. And then Mom came home and said, the store has been robbed and they got your rings. I'm like, they just took my rings? No, they wiped out everything. They backed a truck up to the front of the store and stole everything in the store. I was like, well, did we pay yet? No, we didn't pay yet. I'm like, okay, can we order them from somewhere else? That's why I started so late with rings, and I still blame whatever sumbitch robber that was for messing up the start of my rings. But I don't think I would have been that great of a ring juggler anyway. So South Carolina, I got juggling with 3 baseballs because I was useless on a baseball team and played about 2 innings per game in the deep outfield where I only was able to win 1 game by catching a ball that would have got a lot of runners home, but it was the 3rd out, and we won the game, and my catch made us win the game, yay! And that was the only time I was ever a sports hero. It lasted about 35 minutes. Nobody had cell phones back then, so there is no proof. You can just tell me I'm lying and it'll be fine. But in that time of the baseball team, I was always juggling. I was always screwing around with the extra baseballs because after everybody would warm up, all the baseballs, the dirty ones that don't look white anymore, they look like rocks with seams. Look, it's a rock with seams. Oh, it's a baseball. We had them sitting around. The guy next to me was doing the thing where you just cycle 2 balls in one hand. I should have had my visual aids ready. Excuse me for being so prepared. I'm not a morning person. And this morning, I was awake. So now I'm a whole day screwed. This thing right here, I didn't know that this was a juggle. He was doing this going, come on guys, get a hit, come on, and cheering to the team. And I was like, yeah, what he said. And I started doing this. And I didn't know it was anything. I didn't know it was juggling. And then later on, I thought, I wonder if my left hand could do it. Nope. My right hand actually could only do this. Let me be accurate historically. My left hand, yeah, the columns version, right? And I still didn't know it was called juggling. No idea. You know, there was no juggling in South Carolina. There's still none. I blew. But this was how my left hand learned it. And I still never thought I was juggling. And then one day, I saw this guy doing this. And I tried it and I couldn't do it. But I noticed that if you take the 2 objects you were already juggling and you go, I'm going to exchange this. If you do that every other time, you make an idiot out of yourself on someone's fancy video camera. If you do it every other time like this, you go, right, out, back in, out, back. Let's see, it's every other time. And then all of a sudden it's every time, and that's your cascade. You can do it with the other hand too. Just throw this one in, exchange it out. And my cascade happened like that. It happened with a series of me seeing how many times and how soon could I throw that guy in and replace it. See the big ball? Big ball's out and in. And so then I actually learned the cascade sort of by default, and I didn't even know it was called the cascade until I got that popular book, Juggling for the Complete Klutz by Mr. Cassidy.
So you really did just teach yourself?
Yeah, taught myself by accident.
Wow.
Thank you, Mark, whatever your name was, who sat next to me, the fellow bench warmer. We kept the benches so warm. It was easy, it was summer.
I think thinking differently leads people to this as a career. You
got to think differently to accept that juggling. The juggling article in Smithsonian magazine mentioned the words professional juggler, and I had never heard of such a thing. I'm like, come on, man. You can professional. Do that. Yeah, well, professional means you get paid to do something. Who? What moron is going to go, I'm going to pay this guy to throw his balls around. Here, watch. So it took a while for that to, in fact, for a long time, even though I heard there were professional jugglers, there wasn't no internet when I was a kid, and I could not see them. They were in the ether somewhere. They were a TV construct or a magazine construct. Thank you, professional jugglers, Flying Karamazov, Anthony Gatto, Michael, what's his name? Albert Lucas, for being in that article so that I could be like, oh, that exists. At least some little twinkle, little pilot light started in the back of my head that there is such a thing as a professional juggler. I prefer to be a comedy juggler, because if I try to compete with super jugglers in technique, that's ridiculous. I look like the janitor who's just picking stuff up. But okay, so the next question by the lady, please.
So this is actually kind of along the lines of what we were just getting into.
Okay.
So second question is, for the new aspiring jugglers, do you have any advice?
If you actually are an aspiring juggler, congratulations.
I should actually give you the backstory. The reason Mimi and I got started is she got a call, and she did an audition, she got the call back, and she's going to be working with a show that is touring the Renaissance Fair Festival circuit. And the first year is sort of a tryout, but if that goes well, they want to sign her for 5 years, and they need her to, she's got some basic juggling down, but she's basically spending the next year training, practicing, and developing so that when she's going on the road with this show, her juggling chops are at the level. So she's just now transitioning from a more normal trajectory in life to this performer life. So
how much can she juggle already?
So she can juggle clubs.
3?
She can juggle 3 clubs, yeah.
Okay.
So
any tricks, any passing?
I've not seen any videos of her passing, but she's at the beginner phases.
Can she juggle and look through the clubs at the audience?
Her main background is that she's got a whole bunch of acro.
Okay, so she's strong.
So she's transitioning some of the juggling skills. So her acro skills are already plenty strong for the show, is my understanding, but she needs to up her juggling game.
Okay.
So what would your advice be? I mean, she and I are gonna work together over the next year.
Well, I would say find a qualified professional juggler to act as a coach at, too late, Gardy got one. So beyond having Bill Berry in your life, let me see. Let's say he's busy on a gig and he's away, or it's cold and you're stuck inside, or you got to babysit, or you got to get over a cold, or there's a zombie apocalypse. If you're juggling on your own, I recommend not burning out on any one move, and when you practice, always practice to a catch and not a drop. Like, you can practice stuff that makes you drop all day, but if you're having trouble on something new, go back to your regular cascade and just do a cascade and catch them. And just think about how good it feels to just catch, even if it's the most basic thing you do. If it's 3 balls and you catch them, when you put your props away, don't put them away from the floor, put them away from a catch of the end of a juggle, and cement that in your brain. That's one of the things, I call that reinforcement. You're like, yeah, at the end, I caught him. Yeah, but you were working on 5 balls all day and you mostly dropped those. At the end, you picked up 3, you did 3, you caught them. The rest was just practice. The other thing is, don't feel discouraged if your entire show feels like a practice. I've made a career out of it. I have a bad wrist and I drop a lot. I'm clumsy. My mistakes are in a different place in every single show. Don't let it get to you, because we're paid to perform. But doctors who make way more money than we do, and lawyers who make way more money than we do, are just paid to practice. If they can get paid to practice, so can we.
And I love that you said everything you just said, because the next question is, while performing, have you ever dropped anything, and how did you recover?
Oh, so sweet to think, so sweet of you to think I could get through a single show in my entire life without dropping at least 2 things, mostly into the audience. Sometimes, sorry, lady.
It's a part of life.
Yeah, it's a part of our life. The thing is, I had to build my show around 2 things. Promising the audience that in a minute I was going to do something that's actually more impressive than the crap I'm showing them now to fill the time, and making the drops something that they can help me get over. So my trademark signature bit is to get the audience. First, I tell the audience that this next part is an audience test, and depending on how you handle it, you either pass or fail the audience test. Then I say, if you pass my audience test, I will show you a danger juggle, and get them to go, ooh. Then I say, but if you fail your audience test, I'll still show you the danger juggle. I need it to fill the time. How about an ooh for that? Ooh, okay. Then I always let them know that what I want to hear is some sympathy noises when I miss. Because watching a juggler get through an entire show that's 3/4 of an hour is like watching a baseball pitcher pitch a no-hitter. And you might even remember that pitching a no-hitter in the professional Major League Baseball is absolutely astounding, but it's also kind of boring to watch. Jugglers getting through an entire show without a drop is like a round of golf where the golfer makes a birdie on every single hole, where the bowler makes a strike on every roll, so it's a perfect 300. Yes, it's impressive, wow, but it's kind of boring. What makes sports interesting to watch, and let me tell you, juggling is definitely a sport, is the fact that we have to deal with, in any sport, the errors, the fumbles, the bobbles, we can be as polished as it comes. Sergei Ignatov, Anthony Gatto, Tomas Dietz, and yet in one of their best moments, when they've had plenty of sleep, great nutrition, been working out, drunk enough water, had enough time with their significant other, had some fresh air, mentally practice, their fingers aren't split, they've got skin moisturizer, they're having a great hair day, and they've practiced that routine for 3 years, they will have a drop for no reason. We call that a stupid drop. And if you let stupid drops bother you, you will be out of the juggling field in 2 months. Sure. So remember, I drop all the time. Most of these guys that do professional juggling don't drop as much as I do. I have a bad wrist, there's a cyst under the tendons, and it will never move like it should unless I let a surgeon go in there and cut me open. So it's always a thing. Wow, my juggling's getting really clumsy. I go to the audience, was the show good? And they're like, yeah. It's like, did you mind if I made a mistake? And they go, we thought that was part of the act. And I go, it is now.
It will be every show.
It will be every show. Come back and see the other show. All the mistakes will be in a different place. That's one of my trademark lines.
All right, so next question. Thank you, that was great. Her being new to juggling, she has an obsession with it. And when she sees anything she sees, she goes, can I juggle that? Can I juggle that? Can you relate to that?
Anything she sees as far as a juggling prop, are we talking?
Like everything, she goes, can I juggle this? Can I juggle that?
That could make her a fun date. But anyway, I would say the produce section, you should have a chaperone if you're feeling that way, unless you buy the stuff first and then juggle it, or have the store employee walk around and go, you drop it, you bought it. All right, that sounds fair to me. Because you know, bruised fruit is just as yummy if you eat it right away.
Yeah.
However, congratulations. If you are obsessed with juggling, you will be really good at it.
Yeah.
You may never achieve perfection. Like I said, that's boring anyway. when you think juggling is too easy, you find out you get bored. Most of the perfect jugglers I know.
Practice makes proficient.
Yeah, practice makes proficient,
Yeah.
practice makes improvement, practice makes interesting, practice makes a challenge, practice never makes perfect, and it's a form of emotional abuse for someone to go, well, you know what they say, practice makes perfect. Because in the juggling world, they're really miserable people, and most of them are happy. But the miserable people in the juggling world are the ones who think that they're eventually going to do everything perfect, or that you should do it perfect, or that if you didn't do it perfect, somehow something's wrong with your practice. There's nothing wrong with your practice. Or maybe it is, but we'll fix it. But don't worry, your practice will never be perfect, and your juggling will never be perfect. Don't obsess. Just make yourself steadily better, or reach out to another prop when you get burned out on one prop and come back like an old friend to that prop, that's all.
The other thing is the diminishing returns. In every other field, we say, let's make it more perfect, more precise, and more exact every time. Whereas jugglers, we say, hey, I think I've mastered that. Let's make it harder. Yeah. And then we say, oh, I've mastered that. Let's make it, there must be a harder way to do this. And then that is our job, is to make it harder every time. So of course there's going to be diminishing returns. Of course there's going to be misses. That is part of.
Is that Bob Nickerson who says jugglers are not efficiency experts?
Yes, yes.
We always say, there must be a harder way to do this. Maybe I should throw the entire heavy thing behind the back. Ooh, that did not feel good. And then we're doing it in the show the next month. I can throw that bowling ball behind the back. Dude, you have the egg, the apple, and the bowling ball. Why not just throw the apple behind the back? Because that's too easy. Oh my God. Jugglers, we're a strange bunch. That's exactly right.
Well, it's like, I don't remember who it was, but there's a performer who was juggling 3 16-pound bowling balls, and then he gave himself a hernia after years of doing it, and he said, okay, fine, I'll go down to 10-pound bowling balls. It's like, you don't need to juggle 3 16-pound juggle.
That's an ego
balls.
trip right there. Listen, if there's a cheaper way to do it and it looks just as good, write the number 16 on a 4-pound child's bowling ball and hand it to someone. Raise 16 pounds, right? And they'll say yes. And if they say no, they're not on a microphone. He said yes. You know, just that's the audience wants entertainment. They don't want accuracy. That's why they watch hypnotists. Shouldn't have said that.
The truth will spill forth. Speaking of, I found from a specialty store, a 2.5-pound bowling ball with a hard shell. Most of the time when you get under the 6 or 8 pounds, they have like a rubbery shell. It's had a hard shell, so it was only 2.5 pounds.
But size of a bowling ball?
The size of a bowling ball.
Oh, sweet.
It actually had holes on both sides, so you could have larger fingers or smaller fingers. So
that's cool because, like Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, says, how do they size the holes on the bowling ball? It's like they're either for a 3-year-old girl or the Incredible Hulk. You never have it in between.
Yeah. Question number 6. When she's around people who can juggle better than she can, she gets nervous about her juggling. Any advice?
Okay. The whole way you get better at juggling is being around people who are better than you. If you're learning a foreign language, you don't want to be around people who are just, ja, ein Bier bitte all day. You want the people who are native speakers, who are the best you can actually be around, having them trying to help you. And that's the same with juggling. You will be intimidated when you see how incredible the best jugglers are. The top 5 to 10% are robotic. They may even be somewhat autistic because they're so unbelievably good so soon in their lives. If you don't relate to them, good, neither do I. Most of them are not entertainers. They're mostly engineers, computer programmers, teachers, builders. Scientists, yeah, and they juggle and they get this incredible level. They don't even know why they're so good. They have fast twitch muscle, they have incredible ability to learn stuff and retain it, and muscle memory. A lot of that helps them with the other things that they do. One of the best jugglers I know is one of the fastest typers in the world, and he doesn't even worry about it. But when he took a typing test, people are like, you know, that's world record. I don't care, I'm juggling 11 balls. So when you think about, you want to be around people who are better than you. Now, when they say or do demeaning things and put you down, those are toxic people, and it's up to you if you want to get them out of your life, which is healthy, or bring some non-toxic people around the toxic people and try to detoxify those jerks a little bit. Most jugglers who are better than you are so happy that you like the thing that they put so much time into that you're their new best friend. If you give them a compliment, you know, I've made some lifelong friends because they told me that my juggling is good when I was having a hard day and it wasn't looking that good to me. It wasn't feeling that good to me. So it's really cool that you're going out there and being with people who are better than you, more advanced than you. But remember, the fact that you're obsessed with getting better at juggling is good. You're going to be as good as you can ever be. And don't expect that level to be like those super jugglers. If you strive for it, cool. But if you don't reach it, I wanted to be performing 7 rings, 7 balls, and 5 clubs behind the back. Now I do 6 rings maximum, with drops occasionally, have to redo it. 3 clubs behind the back, and the occasional alternating 4, and 1 on the chin and 3 behind the back. And 6 balls if I need more than 5 balls. This practicing 7 helped my speed. You always want to practice numbers higher than you can actually control. Hand helmets out first if there's kids around. But you want to practice more objects than you can control so that when you come back to your level, it feels a little bit slower and more manageable. Opera singers always try for notes 2 notes higher than the one they're going to have to hit in their show that's currently their highest. They may not be able to hit that at a pretty tone, but if they're hitting that high E, a little bit in practice, this high C won't be a problem at all. And an opera guy told me that. So he saw me struggling with 7 balls and he goes, well, you don't need 7, do you? I mean, your 5 looks good, it's pretty, nobody cares. I'm like, we jugglers care, we judge each other harshly, really, really too harshly, and ourselves. We're our own worst critics, of course. But I wanna tell you something about comparing yourself. And it's a quote I need to read to you that I carry around in my brain and then I don't get it right. So, here we go. I'm just gonna, Martha Graham, the famous dancer and choreographer, was quoted by my favorite comedy person in the universe, rest in peace, George Carlin. And Martha, okay, if you wanna Google this and look at it for yourself, it will remind you not to be too self-critical, because if you're any kind of a creator, you do your acrobat stuff, that's great. You're an artist already, you're a performer already, you're an entertainer already, you're doing something that most people don't do, and if so, they never developed it like you did. And now you're reaching out into juggling, great. The best thing I could hear about you so far is you're obsessed with juggling. The only way you ever learn 5 objects is an obsession, isn't it? You never get 5 objects unless you're obsessed with getting 5. You could probably get 6 by hacking around with it, but you don't get 5 unless you are obsessed for a while. So here it is, Martha Graham quickening.
And while you find that, I'll just throw in one other thing, and I'm sure John would agree with me on this. In general, the juggling community is one of the most open, welcoming, sharing-oriented of any community you will ever find. Whether you are one of those NASA scientists or a total misfit, everyone is welcome, everyone is brought in. It is a big, beautiful, slightly dysfunctional, but wonderful family. And I don't know that there are any other groups that are just so
apparently
welcoming.
the hand pan people are like that.
Really?
Yeah, you know, the boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
A guy I know who used to juggle a lot is a longboarder and a super skier and snowboarder. He's now a hand pan guy, and he flies a long way to meet up with other hand pan people. I think there are a lot of communities that are sweet. I think Lego has a lot lot of good people in its community, Lego users groups. And I think people who are enthusiastic about anything that has no victim. You know, people that are enthusiastic about something that really doesn't have a bad environmental impact, something that can make kids smile, something that can bring people together, or hey, have people on a beach come up and go, hey, that's cool, can you show me how to do that? But he's right. If you know Harry Potter, when I was in South Carolina, there's no juggling around. When I was in Florida, there was no street performing. And at heart, I'm a comedy, juggling, talking street performer. I've adapted to get on the cruise ship stage so I don't have to die when I'm 69. Still on track to have to die when I'm 69, but I'll keep you posted. But the point is that before I got cruise ships, because I wanted to get somebody else to pay for my hotels and stop going to youth hostels and stop dealing with outdoor weather in my juggling, I was at heart a street performer, and I learned that there's a community of people that allow you to shine as a comedy juggler. Mostly in Europe and other countries. The US, you have to seek out the jugglers. You usually have to drive somewhere, go on the internet and find them. But once you're in their gym, or their home, or their backyard, or their practice space, some of them even use churches, finally a good use for those buildings, you find that they're some of the, like you said, the warmest and most welcoming and most friendly people in the world. I liken it to like this. When I was stuck in Florida or South Carolina, I had my magic wand, but I wasn't allowed to use it until I went to Hogwarts. And that means that until you're around other jugglers, or in Europe where they allow street performing, you feel like you could bust because you don't get to show anybody the new 3 club trick you learned, or the new balance combo you learned, or you learn a new 360, or you learn one extra object and you got it for 100 catches. No one gives the tiniest mouse turd about it where you live. And then suddenly you're around other jugglers like, whoa, last year you couldn't do that. Whoa, you're awesome, give me. And they're huggers. Jugglers are huggers. Yes, you can get, if you haven't had a hug for a month or a pandemic and you're starting to feel like, I'm just gonna leap in front of the next bus. Ah man, no buses are running, pandemic. Okay, so you're lying on the road for hours and just give the whole thing up. The point is, once you've got away from your last dry spell and you need a whole bunch of people to hug you, go into the juggling convention and almost everyone that knew you at any time will give you a hug. Isn't that great? Even Germans. I live in Germany. So there's a community. The other thing the community will do as a networking thing is they will put you up in their house. They will get you when you're stranded at a distant airport. They will, and I have a big story about this I can relate if you want, suddenly let you borrow juggling knives when you couldn't travel with your juggling knives so that your cruise ship show doesn't have to be rewritten at the last minute. And then they'll pick you up on the night that you're going to get the juggling knives to borrow from a person you've never met. You only know them because they responded to your Facebook message. They say, hey, there's a circus on tonight. Me and my wife are going. Would you like to go? Gracias, Julian. Yes, I would like to go. I had a great time. I paid for their concessions. Julian let me borrow his knives in Miami, and I'd use them on the cruise ship for a week. And when I came back, he drove me from the, I gave him his knives back, and he drove me from the Miami terminal to the Brightline train station. Brightline is a great product. It's a train that runs from Orlando Airport all the way to the heart of Miami. But they're in the stone age of stupidity about one thing. They think our fake juggling knives can actually cut. The head of security at Brightline in Orlando needs to understand what a stage prop is. But he thinks that in a locked suitcase that is sitting under another locked suitcase, right where I can keep an eye on it, that somehow my fake knives with no cutting edges are a threat to his train. And that's wrong. Thank you, Julian, for fixing the problem of an idiot in authority flexing on a juggler who was just trying to get to work on a cruise ship.
You mention it in that context, but every time I ever joined a ship, the security, their job is to stop anyone from bringing weapons on board. Yeah. And my job is to bring weapons on board.
Well, his knives are not a weapon. They're more like shaped like a machete.
But I had whips, I had blowguns, I had my sword-swallowing sword.
Oh, right, so he had real weapons.
So I had a saw blade on a
handle.
Hammer handle.
Yeah, like Bruce had, yeah.
So I genuinely got zapped many, many times. But speaking of weapons, one last question, and then we'll wrap up this little interview. Thank you again for doing this.
It's a pleasure. It'll probably need to be edited for clarity.
You're speaking very clear. Have you ever seriously injured yourself from juggling? She has a fear that a knife will take out her eye, or that she'll break a finger, or a torch will burn her. Please tell me what you have been through.
Okay, never use sharp knives ever, ever, ever. Yeah. Always dull your knives to where they can't even cut butter. There's no audience, no gig, no time, no occasion ever where it's okay to have a sharp knife for juggling. Make sure that your kitchen knives are lethally sharp, because you don't want to get cut by a dull kitchen knife. You'd rather get cut by something sharp, then you can squeeze the wound together, sterilize it, and it'll heal almost immediately. So when you're using knives for surgery or for kitchens, I hope you're not doing surgery. You won't need juggling if you're a surgeon. Cha-ching. But if you're using a knife to cut something on purpose, it should be as sharp as possible, and it should be kept out of reach of children and out of reach of falling and out of reach of you reaching for it when it's in a drawer. Juggling knives, I don't have mine here. Juggling knives are not knives. They are props that look like knives. His sword is a real sword. His blowguns are real blowguns. But our juggling knives that flip are mostly from Dubé or Babash or K8 or Play, and they're made of a blade, of a thing that looks like a blade that cannot cut. It can't cut at all. The end must not be pointy. And if you're doing anything where the knife can get near your eye, wear goggles or glasses, or don't do it, because it's never going to be worth it to actually take the risk of a knife hurting you in a show. Never. There's just not a gig that pays well enough for you to sit back later with a permanent injury that you'll never heal from and go, yeah, but it was a pretty good gig. No, it wasn't. No gig is that good. Now, about fire. If you use a cool burning fuel like charcoal lighter fluid, charcoal barbecue lighter fluid, which is what I use worldwide, or white spirit, those two fuels are not very hot. And when the torch bounces off your arm or your head, it might burn your hair. What burns you is when you use a fuel like gasoline, which has a high flash point and a high temperature. It's explosive. The fumes are explosive. Don't use gasoline, don't use white gas, and don't use Coleman fuel. However, when you juggle fire, always hold your torches up, because fire always goes up away from the center of the earth. You can talk all day, as long as it's not too windy, with a flame until your torch goes out. Remember, it's not the torch that burns, it's the fuel. I would stand upwind, but you don't hold your torches like this, and you don't hold them like this, and you don't casually let them be horizontal. If there's flame on your torch, it's up, like this, not like this. Give me you're tired, you're hungry. We're jugglers for Christ's sake. Anyway, so your flame is, but when you use the proper fuel, a bounce, or even you catch the wrong end, it's just not gonna burn you. It's just not gonna burn you. Have I been injured? Yes. By a standard juggling club. I was trying to learn 5-club back crosses. That was an affront to nature and all the gods that ever existed. So one of these hit me in the tooth one night when I was practicing in racquetball court, and this tooth is fake. It's fake, it's a crown, it's my second crown. I'm not king of anything, I wish. Yeah, once you buy the crown, you realize you don't have the money to be a king anymore. But I broke it and half the tooth went down my throat. That pissed me off. One time I had a walk-around gig while subbing for Mike Danger, or Mike Rayner, who is now the Broken Juggler on Instagram and TikTok, and he's still hilarious and he's still got amazing chops. Please watch the Broken Juggler, Mike Rayner, who lives in California now and owns his own house. I know, woo, these people are amazing. So I was subbing for him at Universal Studios way back in the years, and when I did that, I was out doing I had several sets where I did a show and then 2 walk-arounds. One of my walk-arounds, I threw a club up high on like a triple or quadruple spin, and when it came down, it was a little wide, and it smacked the end of my finger just right to crack that joint. It just felt like a sprain. And over the next few hours, it got fatter and fatter and hurt so much I couldn't even complete a sentence. Went to the emergency room, and the doctor went, "Yep, it's broken." And he gave me an intense painkiller and iced it and put a splint, and he says, it's gonna just have to heal itself. Fortunately, it did. I broke little joints like that in my fingers 2 other times, but it wasn't by juggling. Don't let your finger heal in a way that makes it stiff. As soon as it's knitted and it's not hurting too much anymore, keep it in motion, ice it and warm it. Feed yourself a lot of water and vitamins, and if you have to, talk to a chiropractor. You don't want any of your joints to heal in a stiff way. But have I been injured? I have not broken this tooth and broken this finger while juggling. Also, the meanest things to juggle, in my opinion, are rings. What do you think?
See this fingernail?
Yeah. Rings destroy your fingernails. Rings.
It'll come down. You'll be juggling rings, and one will come down, and it'll land right on your fingertip, and it'll basically split your nail.
Or lift your nail off the quick. That's fun.
I've hinted to her about this coming because she's already talking about how the clubs. She says, no one ever told me how painful it was going to be to learn all this. It's like, yeah, there's a price to pay. So, but yeah, so this is almost grown out. I've been waiting for this to grow out. But yeah. Any final thoughts to share before we wrap this up?
Yeah. When you become a performer, you probably already are, always keep in mind that, first of all, if you really care about your audience, connect with your audience. On whatever level you can, connect with your audience. The best way is through humor or talking to them in a way they can relate to. Never do the standard stupid hack of how you doing, and they react and you go, you can do better than that. Never do that, never let anyone do that. That must die and be lost to history. It's never been okay for a performer to say, how you guys doing? Before he's given them anything, before he's done his job, and they go, hey, and he goes, insulting the very audience that is paying him. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. That guy should be taken off stage by the old thing. Okay. The other thing is, connect with your audience, respect your audience, act like they're there because they want you to be good. Act like they're there because they want a good show. Don't treat it like an audition. Yes, the word audience is related to audition. That's a little confusing. But the main thing is, when you go out on stage on a hired gig, or you walk through a walk-around gig, or you're at a Renaissance fair, when people come over to check you out, you know what they want? They want you to be good. They're not insecure. They don't want you to fail. They're not looking to put you down. And if they are, that's a minority little punk who wouldn't be happy even if you were good. Ignore them. You're playing to the people, and it's 90+% who want you to be good, who want to feel the time flying by while you're with them, okay? And the other thing is this. Martha Graham, the dance choreographer, said this, and I read this whenever I get insecure and doubt myself, which is 80 times a day. I don't read it that often, but I feel that, especially before I go on stage. There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action, and there is only one of you in all time. This expression is unique, and if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, not how it compares with other expression, like other people, other performers. Don't compare. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work, thank God. You have to keep open and aware directly the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. No artist is pleased. There is no satisfaction whatsoever at any time. There is only a queer, divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others. Martha Graham.
Perfect. They're about to start a class in here, so you have to wrap. Thank you, John.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It was a pleasure.
Oh. Hello, welcome to Crunch Fitness. Apparently there's no Captain Crunch, no Nestle Crunch, and you don't have to do crunches to come in. That's cool.
You just have to have a friend who's got a membership at Crunch.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. So, cheers for that.
Which you would have one if you didn't live in Germany. Because they don't have Crunch in Germany,
No,
right?
I don't even, I just use the gyms on the ships and calisthenics.
So I was talking about that when I was working on the ships. That was my routine. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd go to breakfast, I would immediately go to the gym and do my workout or a couple hours of yoga, then lunch, and then that afternoon block where you've got 5-6 hours before
Nap.
shows. Well, I would watch documentaries, I would read, I would write.
See, everybody that writes, I'm so jealous. I'd say, I'm gonna write on this trip. I got lots of sea days. I never do any writing. I barely write notes down.
Well,
that's what I bothered about.
You said you want to do some books at
Some
some
books,
point.
yeah, but I never write them.
Well, so this is one of the things we were talking about is I think everyone has their bell curve of the peak of the entertainment, and then we all slow down a little bit, and the younger, flashier guys with more sequins, or girls with
guys with more girls with sequins.
right start taking those jobs, and we have to kind of reinvent ourselves. And I'm trying to crack the
You
code.
mean you didn't write while you were regularly traveling? Yes, you did.
I did. I started writing in 95.
See, I've been traveling with the ships for 12 years, and I've been traveling as a freelance entertainer and street juggler for many more years than that. Every time I sat down to write, I didn't. I mean, I have a few little essays, but
It's one of those things that either lights you on fire or doesn't. And that's okay, because there's a million things we can do to reinvent. I think that's one of the things we can actually get into in this interview.
okay.
So
Who's interviewing whom?
So I guess I'm interviewing you, but
All right.
this is freeform. And I
Good,
do have a
good.
couple of questions.
Okay, shoot, I'll try to
the-
answer them in an entertaining way.
So welcome to our first interview here at the Mr. Bill Berry Patreon podcast, videocast. I have the amazing John Nations, who is currently working on a cruise ship. Well, not currently, he's in between contracts on a cruise ship.
I have nothing for February.
If you have gigs in February,
Or just a couch.
turn this into a
I do
plate.
dishes.
So actually, didn't you have an opportunity to, you had a potential contract, but it was just not an itinerary that you loved, right?
No, I took it. It's horrible. It's in March.
Oh.
Yeah, I took it. It's horrible. It's in March. I have no offers for February.
So we need offers for John in February if you know anyone.
I want them based in St. Petersburg.
Based in St. Pete. You like in St. Pete.
Come on, everybody loves St. Pete. It's addictive.
It's kind of like the, what Austin and
San Antonio, Savannah, what else?
What's the one in Georgia?
Key West
I
a
can't
little
believe-
bit.
Key West.
Savannah's in Georgia.
Yeah,
Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville. That's what. There's Boulder.
Oh, Boulder. Love Boulder, man.
Right. There's these places, there's these cities that have this just vibe, and St. Pete, I think St. Pete's on that list.
It's impressive. It's definitely impressive.
And we haven't even given you the full tour yet.
Yeah, I'm scared I'm going to end up moving here, and that means it's difficult to actually still live in Europe if I want to. I'll try to split my year.
You can snowbird.
Yeah, snowbird here. That's what I'm doing this year, because I didn't get my Australia gig. No offense to you, St. Petersburg, but Melbourne and Sydney. Whoa.
Hey, we'll take second to Sydney.
It's very similar to hanging out in Sydney, but it's not as huge and busy. And
Is Sydney one of your favorite cities?
Melbourne's a little bit better, but yeah, Sydney's one of my faves.
Really, and maybe it's just because I had the best noodle bowl I've had in my life.
From Asians, right?
It was
it's so Asian. It's closer to Asia than any part of the English-speaking world,
Yeah.
so it's more Asian, really.
Gosh, it was so good. I went there again the next day, and then when we had another contract there, I tried to go again. I couldn't find it. I was like, no.
That's why we need to make notes on our GPS trackers.
Right.
These things are a miracle. I wonder if it knows where I am now.
Speaking
Maybe.
of, who's your communication? Who do you cell phone with?
I have in Europe. I've got Telenor, and I've got O2 in the UK. And here, when I'm visiting, I use the Walmart network, which is mostly good.
Got it.
And I prepay, I don't sign up for anything, and I use the phone that I already had.
So if you're out of Europe and you
I buy
need-
a SIM card each year when I get here, and then I reload it with credit until I go back to Europe. And then usually they won't let me keep the number till the next year, so anyone tracking me would think I'm on the run from something, but I'm not.
But that's how you solve it.
That's how I get around it. I just buy a new SIM card, throw credit onto it wherever I am.
Got it.
What do you have?
So here, a number of years ago, T-Mobile created an international plan, and I believe I'm still grandfathered in on that same plan, unless they've changed it without telling me. So when I go to other countries,
$10 a day.
I don't even think it's that. I think
wow.
I have there's a couple of places where they'll limit the amount of data I get, but T-Mobile has been, for me, living in the US as an American citizen.
And traveling.
And traveling, it works almost everywhere. It did not work in Montenegro. It worked in Croatia, it worked in Greece, it worked in, I think it worked in Serbia too, but it did not work in Montenegro.
Turkey?
Haven't been in Turkey. I'd love to get over there.
All the Schengen and EU member states, no problem?
So everywhere else, other than Juneau, Alaska. Juneau, Alaska limits my data. I still have texting and phone.
That's in the US.
I know. Weird, yeah. So that's one of the few places in the US, at least when I was there last, it's been a few years, Juneau was limiting my data. But